Brought to you in part by Flywire's 2018 White Tie Affair. This VIP red carpet gala will take place in one of Baltimore's most beloved landmarks, Druid Hill Park, Sunday, June 10th, 5 to 10 p.m. at the Parks Mansion House lawn. For more information, visit radioonfire.com or facebook.com/the-flywire. All right, so we have a full house here today, Dad.
Yes.
We're going to talk some news.
Yes.
And we have some special guests in the building.
Yeah.
Ladies, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nike Robinson, and I am the founder and CEO of an amazing organization called Black Girls Vote.
Wonderful.
And hello, everyone. My name is Natasha Murphy, and I'm the Deputy Director of Black Girls Vote.
These ladies sound smart. Okay.
Hey, listen,
These ladies sound smart.
Dad was giving me some history and dropping some.
Yeah, he could do that.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Definitely.
Not only does Black Girls rock, Black Girls vote. All right, I like
Absolutely.
that. I like that.
So you kind of hinted to the organization, like, tell people about it.
So do you want me to tell you the story behind
Absolutely,
it? Or just
absolutely.
like
Tell me the story. How did we get here? How did we get an organization called Black Girls Vote?
So it started, again, I'm the founder and CEO, and I was born on December the 20th. So, no, I'm joking. But Black Girls Vote, we launched in November of 2015, and it started based on a series of events that happened to me personally. And I'll start by, in April of 2015, we saw the riots that happened in our community. I live within walking distance of Mondawmin Mall. Secondly, we saw that, let me go up a little bit. Okay. And secondly, I was an appointee with the state of Maryland, and I lost my job. So I went to work that afternoon, they pulled me into the office and said, "We're sorry, but today's your last day." And that's because Governor Hogan became the new governor, and he wanted to bring in his own team. And
That's not cool.
but it's the reality of what happens in politics, right? And in August of 2015, someone got murdered directly across the street from me. And it was one of the things that really shook me. As a single Black woman, going home in and out at night, I live across the street from a park. And that, when I look at all three of those instances, I said it's all tied to policy and politics in one shape or form. So earlier that year in May, I purchased the domain name Black Girls Vote. And the reason behind that is because we saw in 2008 and 2012 that Black women delivered the presidency of President Obama. And I said, what can we do collectively as a community to come together and make change? Because we don't have the economics that we once had before integration and things like that. However, we have a vote. And no matter if you have $1 million or $1 billion, when you go to election on election day, you have one vote. And I said that, you know what, Black women, we are a force to be reckoned with. Let's come together. And I came up with the name Black Girls Vote. And in October of 2015, I started sharing the vision with some folks about it. And then November 30th, on the birthday of Shirley Chisholm, we launched at Western High School, the oldest female high school in the state of Maryland, one of the oldest in the country. And so we launched in 2.5
Are you
years
making
later,
noise
right
over there?
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
In my heart, I'm like an honorary dove, so I can make some noise with you. And Black Girls Vote is really, really about mobilizing women of color to come together to use our collective voting power and demand policy in exchange for our vote, because everything that happens is tied to policy one way, shape, or form. And how do we start having those conversations or start talking more confidently and vocally about mutually beneficial relationships? And that's what it's all about. You want our vote? We want XYZ. We want the policy. We want the policies that are impacting our day-to-day lives. And it's really around education, economics, and healthcare. When we're out talking to women, those are the three things that really stick out to them the most. And last but not least, we really, really are interested in targeting our 18 and 25-year-olds, because we believe that it's important that we begin to continuously have the conversation with these millennials about continuously staying engaged in politics.
Well,
I agree. I mean, that all makes sense.
mm-hmm.
And it seems so simple. I don't know why it didn't happen like earlier.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm.
When you say that women delivered the vote, women got President Obama over the hump, Black women?
Yes, Absolutely. We have been the most loyal and consistent voting bloc for the past, the recent election cycles. And, you can see that really in the Black community as a whole, Black women really serve as the backbone, and that's represented on Election Day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's for the Democratic Party, right?
That is, yes, for the
people want to say,
Democratic.
yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or independents, right? Now, so when most of the women that Black women that are voting are not Republican women, I'm assuming.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, historically we have been the backbone, particularly of the Democratic Party. But, as policies have changed, as Nike said, a lot of Black women are exploring other options, as you mentioned, the independent route, and really taking a closer look at our elected officials and what they're promising us on that campaign trail, and making sure that it aligns with the priorities that we have as individuals, as well as what we look to see for our community at large.
So you're not letting them off the hook. You're holding them accountable.
Yes, that accountability piece is key.
Yeah.
So how do you go about mobilizing Black women?
So one of the things with us, as far as with Black Girls Vote, and understand we're a growing and building organization, first and foremost is meeting them where they are, getting them involved in the political process, and that starts with getting them registered to vote. A lot of people, a lot of young people may not want to be registered to vote because when we ask them, to get registered, the first thing is, I don't want to be on the jury duty. I don't want to serve on the jury duty because that now puts my name, I'm now eligible to serve on the jury. But also voting doesn't matter. Why should I vote? My vote doesn't count. They don't care about me. So the first thing, it's important that we engage them and meet them where they are. So it's common that you'll see us at a tennis shoe store, when they dropped some Jordans, we were there doing voter registration. We're in the malls, we're out in high schools, we're all over just to let folks know that we're in the community. One of the things that we did, which folks thought was a little risque, but they appreciated it. We did from the pole to the pole. So we did it at Norma Jean's. We went to Norma Jean's and did voter registration. And right then and there, it was interesting because someone came up to us, one of the dancers, and said, "Thank you for being here, not judging us." We said, "Who are we to judge?" Because at the end of the day, you are here hustling, and we're all hustlers. And you have a family that you have to feed. You have some responsibilities. So at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do, and we're doing what we have to do. But we're not here to judge you, and let's get you registered to vote. You got registered, and it was a great experience, not only for us, but I think the women there as well. So getting them involved and letting them know that your vote counts. And we talking about elections and looking at how many votes this person may have won by, and this person's policies versus this person's policies. And as we see now in 2018, elections have consequences.
No doubt.
Absolutely. No, hey, listen, you speaking to the choir because he'll tell you. I think that as I said earlier, Black women have been the backbone and the conscience of this country, and most people don't know that. They just take it for granted. But no question. I mean, Fannie Lou Hamer. It's just they've been the backbone.
Tired of being tired.
Yes.
Tired of being sick and tired. Yeah, absolutely. And it's exhausting work. Like, you become tired. I had the privilege of talking to the woman yesterday, DeWanda Thompson, who mobilized the women in Alabama. So she's the one who spearheaded bringing the Black vote together and getting the 98% of Black women out of Alabama. And she and I were just talking. Was like, this work it's work. It's working, and it can be exhausting at times. And as you just mentioned, Fannie Lou Hamer, when you're tired of being sick and tired, and we're tired physically and mentally, tired of the state of our communities, but then also, it can wear you out from a mental, physical standpoint as well. But it's just, as you said, we're just continuously fighting for our community.
But you don't let the guys slip by either, do you?
Oh no! Matter of fact, are you registered to vote, Pop? We have some voter registration forms.
I'm glad you asked.
I am. So tell me this: how difficult is it? Because I'm assuming that you can't necessarily align yourself with a particular candidate. How difficult is it for you not to I guess help the female candidate?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, as a nonpartisan organization, we're definitely not conducting any endorsements or really rallying behind one particular candidate. And as Nike mentioned, they want the power, but we want the policy. So the critical thing is when we're interacting with our elected officials and our candidates, we're looking at what are you supporting? What is your vision for serving in this elected office, and how is it going to help the people that actually are casting their vote for you? So, and as Nike mentioned, economics, education, and access to quality health care, those are the kind of the three prongs and pillars that we particularly ask our candidates, what's your stance on this, and how is it going to help Black women in particular, but women of color as a whole?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that just because we're saying Black girls vote, we're not saying that Black women should be in office in all positions, right? And saying that we exclusively want Black women to be in office. We have qualified men who will be more than capable of executing the job of whatever that elected office may be. So it's not about getting the Black woman elected. That's not it, because there are some people, as you said, Fannie Lou Hamer, all skin folk and kinfolk, right? And so we have to understand that everyone may not align with your policy. So there may be a guy out there or another female of another persuasion that may agree with the policies and things that will improve the quality of life for Black people, especially. And I say, when we say Black women, who's improving the quality of life for Black women, we understand you improve our quality of life, we're going to improve the lives of our husbands, our fathers, our brothers, and that impacts our entire community. And that's why I'm extremely just passionate about making sure whoever gets in office, we're talking about the issues that are impacting us.
So you're talking about building coalitions and working with anybody who is espousing the things that you're interested in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why don't you endorse any candidate? I mean, because I guess if you have different news outlets endorse a candidate, what is the pros and cons of the endorsement part?
So we are a nonpartisan organization, which is classified by the IRS, so a 501c organization.
Gotcha.
So we cannot, as an organization, endorse anyone. However, Nikedra, as an individual, I have the ability to endorse whoever I would like, but not as CEO of Black Girls Vote, and that's why.
Okay.
Eventually, we will get a PAC, and a PAC, that's where you see a lot of the endorsements come out of. For the PACs, you can support who you like to support.
Sure.
But we cannot.
Yeah, well, and listen, it's just good to see young Black girls taking charge, and you guys are millennials, so the future is yours.
It's ours.
Yeah, well, I'm taking I'm just going to be the
community work. It's a village. It takes a village.
Yeah,
we need the wisdom.
Yes, that's what I got to offer is the wisdom.
The wisdom. You guys have been here before and have done it before, and back to your question about getting women elected. And I think it's important that when we look at the history of elections, when we had less African Americans in elected office, we had more wealth as a community. We own more businesses and things like that. So it's not necessarily about saying we need Black people to be in office so that we can succeed. It's okay if we take a step out of that and say, how do we collectively talk about the economics, start these businesses? How do we start talking about folks that are in education? Controlling the politics is super important versus being in office, in my humble opinion. So when folks ask, I want to run for office, absolutely not. No desire.
So I'm sure it's come up more than a few times. Yeah. People saying that. What are some of the priorities that Black Girls Vote is really behind?
So I'll let Natasha talk about our recent legislation.
Sure. Yeah. So the 2018 Maryland legislative session actually just wrapped up yesterday. So after our whirlwind 90 days, everything kind of concluded, and we are proud to say that 4 pieces of legislation that we were in support of this session did pass. 2 pieces of legislation were around voting rights. So the first one will actually allow the Board of Elections to automatically register someone to vote anytime they encounter a state agency. So whether that be the health department, if you have to access any social services, you're automatically opted in as opposed to opting out.
Motor vehicle.
Yes. So, and then another.
Some people aren't happy about that.
Yes, of course you have some who would rather not automatically be opted in. But again, you do have the option of removing yourself.
Did our governor support that?
Our governor actually passively let that one.
Yeah, I figured that.
You know, he did not sign it, but without his signature, it was still enacted. So that one benefit there. The second piece was around election day registration. So currently during early voting, which during our upcoming primary election is June 14th through the 21st, individuals can come to those early voting polling places and register that same day and cast a provisional ballot. What this piece of legislation this session was looking to do was to make that possible for general election in November. So this coming November on the ballot, we are going to have an option for the people to actually weigh in and give their input on whether, for the 2020 election, folks would be able to register and vote on the same day. So those are two big pieces that we supported this legislative session.
And I might say that's super important because last year, 2016, during early voting, we did outreach and engagement at Emerson High School. Mm-hmm. And some of the students there who were, now 18 years old and eligible to vote, they, were curious about the process, but had not had someone come in and say the importance of voting. So we were able to get some of those folks registered to vote on the same day and then take them to vote. And that was so powerful. So thank you to the administration there at Emerson High School, as well as Ms. Coley, who's there, the faculty that was there that allowed us to talk to the students and get them registered and vote on the same day. And so that's important. The more and more we engage some of our young people.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't even imagine how that would have impacted me at that time. I went to Emerson.
Oh yeah, Westside Skill Shopping is the early voting location.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
And to have the candidates, because usually when you go to vote, you'll have candidates outside, and to have some of these judges out there talking to some of these young African American men about, I want your vote. And it was so powerful just to see it, and then we're making the walk, and so many people are asking. The candidates are asking these students to vote for me, and they're asking them, why should I vote for you? And they're having a healthy dialogue. So when they went to the poll booth that day and voted for them, they said, hey, I just met this person. I'm going to vote for this person and support them. Why? Because they made a commitment and or we had an opportunity to talk.
And, the reason that that's so important, because especially when you're young, everything seems big and confusing. But when you're able to meet... This is the governor. It brings it down. Oh,
we're dumping on the governor.
This is my congressman, and because I know that had an effect on me, and I was an adult, and when I met certain people, it really gave me more confidence.
Absolutely.
It gave me more confidence, and I got the world didn't seem as complicated.
The reach wasn't as far. It's within my grasp.
Right. And so that's why exposure is so it's so important. So that's perfect. That's perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I applaud you.
What does any moment stand out since you've embarked on this journey? Mm-hmm. Does any one moment stand out?
Oh God, the one that immediately jumps to mind is our inaugural Black Girls Vote Ball that we had November of last year, November 10th to be exact. And being on this journey, I cry so often. They call me the First Lady of Tears because it's, I know, right? But it's almost like when you have a vision and, the day-to-day work and having a team and understanding that where you started, and some people who were a part of the journey that are no longer a part of the journey. And as a leader, that can be hard sometimes, and then just pushing through just the trials and tribulations. And in November, we had our first Black Girls Vote Ball at the Forum Caterers. It was so important to us to support a Black-owned business that supports us. Exactly. And all of the vendors were Black. Make sure that, and we sold out. And so we had over 450 people at the Forum, but the event sold out a week in advance. And so up until the last day, people were calling us trying to get tickets. They were trying to come. And we were like, we're sold out. We had to turn the elected officials away. But to have Joyanne Reed, the host of AM Joy, to be our keynote speaker.
Oh, my goodness.
I love her.
Yeah.
And Simone Sanders is our mistress of ceremony.
Nobody told us.
It was on social media. We're promoting it. So if you didn't see it, a lot of
people. And he's on Facebook.
Do you follow us? That's why you missed it, Dad. Go ahead, Dad. What's your excuse now, Dad?
I will.
You will follow you. That's right.
Like all the listeners.
Okay. And we
that
had,
is very good. That's
all
very
three mayors. We had Mayor Catherine Pugh, former Mayor Rollins Blake, former Mayor Dixon, Christ Mfume, we had Elijah Cummings. I mean, it was really a who's who event. So many powerful people, but our more seasoned people, but then also our young people. And the entire program was highlighting young women of color. So we had the women from Bliss there, Western High School's Poetry Club, Western High School's band. We had 2 dynamic speakers, 10-year-olds, who were there saying, I'm unable to vote right now, but when I become of age, I will vote, and she will vote. So, yep, I cried that entire week leading up to it because, like, this is real. So that's the one thing on top of so many other things that sticks out to me. I'm not sure about Natasha, what stands out?
One of the things that really stands out to me is actually when we did voter registration in partnership with an organization that prepares meals for the homeless. So that definitely stands out because that was my first time really volunteering with BTV, but also just, you know, having folks who are, you know, may not have a permanent home know that they're still able to register.
Just sit on the side. Just
Yeah, so that definitely is one of the standout moments because, you know, these are folks who really feel disenfranchised, and just knowing that, like, hey, I can put down my shelter location and use that as, you know, my address for the Board of Elections was really, really impactful.
Well, you know what? It sounds like the 2 of them would be your sisters, because it sounds like they were raised in our house. You know what I mean?
Really? So you guys grew up talking about politics and things like that?
Well,
and the importance of voting?
More so black business than politics.
Early,
you know.
Okay.
And was always, I used to always tell my children that, you know, the key to us being united, you know, people got all these books, but all we have to do is you give me your money and I give you mine. That's all we got to do. Spend your money with me, I'll give you mine, and just keep that money circulating amongst us. That's the real simple. And so therefore that means we have to make things. We have to produce things. We have to create things. And so that's what that's been the cornerstone of my life, is just getting my children, all of them are entrepreneurs. That's all they do, because that's all they knew. And so, so and as you said, it takes a village. It takes a village.
And see, I didn't grow up with that same, those same dining room table conversations and things like that. So it was really, for me, just being exposed to it, and whether that's through some of my mentors or just, you know, exploring and wanting to learn. So I didn't have, you know, we were talking about black businesses. My mom and dad, like, go to school, you get a job, and you retire. Even to this day, my mom's a mail carrier, and she's the oldest, longest serving female mail carrier in the city of Baltimore.
Wow.
She's been for over 30 years, but that's the type of conversations that we had in our household. So it wasn't about becoming an entrepreneur. It was nothing about politics. It was just, I'm not going to say regular, just that's how we were raised. So even now, the older that I grow, it's like, these are so important. These conversations are so important. And it's important for me to just share that with my nieces and my nephew, and eventually when I have children as well.
Well, you know, it was, you don't always recognize it. I mean, because my kids, I don't know if he didn't necessarily recognize the importance of it then when he was little. But as he grew up, you know, he had no choice because it was all inculcated.
So when did you recognize it, Donna Kay? That, man, Pops was right.
As far as what? Because he's right about a lot of things.
Entrepreneurship or whatever.
The entrepreneurship part, I got that early. I was just talking about this yesterday, wasn't I? Yeah. I was just talking about this yesterday. The aha moment for me with him, Dad always talked to me like he's talking right now, even as a kid. So he talked over my head a lot. So by the time I got older, I started to understand what he was saying. And the one thing that resonated with me the most that he said, and I'll tell you this a lot, is he said, I would get in trouble with people, with just getting along with people, just things. And he would say, you got to get people to like you. But his actual is, you got to get people to like you. He kind of sings stuff. You were right about the singing part. But he, you know, so he says that, and I didn't feel like he would say, you know, the teacher, the this, the that. You know, you're smart, but the people, if they don't like you, they're not going to go the extra mile for you. And I think I had a level of arrogance because I have some natural gifts maybe. And he was saying that's not enough. You have to, you know, you genuinely have to get people to like you. And with business, you know, you're selling, what you ladies are doing, you know, y'all are so approachable, and all that is important. So that's the biggest thing from him, and it affects every aspect of my life.
Getting people to like you.
Yeah, being relatable, being approachable, all of that. So it's when you're a business owner, your customers need, if they don't like you, they're not going to spend money with you because they have a lot of different options. So it's just with my music, with everything. So that's the main thing. And he hammered that home. Every time I fell, hypothetically, failed, misstepped. See, you're a nicer person. And people.
Well, because I would say it is almost impossible to make $1 million by yourself. You gotta have a team.
Yeah.
You gotta have pieces to the puzzle. Everybody has a part to play, and so you gotta keep people motivated. So that
I got that lesson late.
Yeah.
What about the team?
I think like 16 maybe. It started to sink in. I got it down pat now.
You got. Hey, listen, I'm impressed, and we'll be at the next gala.
Awesome, and we're going to do it every other year. So one of the things that's super exciting for us.
So 19.
2019. Yep. Outside of the election year, it was super exciting. Is that in February of this year we got our first chapter of Black Girls Vote at Morgan State University. And what we see is so important is these young black girls, they're bad. Yeah. They're fearless. And Dad said that we're fearless. Not as much as these young girls.
They go harder than y'all?
Yeah, let me tell you. They're like, look, Miss Nike, because in my mind I have so much going on. They're like, we're going to do this, and here's they started the application, they completed it, and I'm reading it and approving it, and they're like, and they did all the work. And said, we're going to have a chapter at Morgan State. Girl said, before I graduate, we're going to have a chapter. And I said, you know what? Sometimes you have to take your hands off of it. And as you said, Dad, it's a team effort. So they submitted the application. Of course, I had to approve it. And in February, sent to the president's office, and they approved us to have a chapter of Black Girls Vote. And for me, I cried, right? But it's a part of, I said, when people think of like NAACP, when they think of urban leagues, when they think of sororities, that's the vision that we're all over on college campuses. And for these young girls to take it upon themselves and say, we're going to do it, which they did, and have it. And now, within a month, they have over 20 girls on campus. They're like, Ms. Nike, people are coming up to us asking us if we're part of Black Girls Vote. Like, they want to get down. I said, oh, gosh. And then one girl said, does this mean we're like the Alpha chapter? Because, last week, someone from Bowie reached out, like, we get a chapter, Howard, North Carolina A&T. And for us, it's like, okay, wait a minute. Let's learn. Let's, let's work through some things and learn the process and how we want to implement the collegiate chapter. But they're just on campus just gloating, and I'm just so proud of them. So it's amazing just to see the young generation just taking hold of things and wanting to run with it.
Well, that's good to hear, and that's good to hear. And I know that as we get closer to election, it's going to just get on fire.
Yeah.
Your schedule is probably getting pretty thick, right?
It is. We have a lot of requests. So if anyone who sent us an email asking us to come somewhere and we have not responded yet, I'm going to personally apologize because the demand, and right now it's about getting key people, as you said, a team in place, a strong team, but just leadership and people that can help lead teams and individuals who can go out and do a lot more voter registration. So we get lots and lots of requests. One of the big events we have coming up is May 11th. We have in Baltimore City, they're doing college signing day. So 5,000 students from across all schools in Baltimore City are going to announce where they're going to college. And they want to have voter registration. So they're like, we want Black Girls Vote to be there. And so now it's like we got to get 30 girls at least to do voter registration at this event because there will be 5,000 kids with the expectation that at least half of them won't be registered to vote, right? So making sure that we have capacity for that. And that's during a weekday. But then we also, the Baltimore Museum of Arts, they have an Arts and Justice initiative, and Ta-Nehisi Coates will be here in May. So they reached out to us to do that event as well. In addition to doing our high school events, 2 weeks ago we were at Frederick Douglass High School. We got 30 students registered to vote. So things like that were all over the place. But then also trying to get enough volunteers and help to continue with the
But you talking about high school and I mean, to me, you look like you're in college.
Oh, no, Dad. Well, thank you, Dad.
He's wise, remember? He's wise.
Oh, that is, no. I'm many years removed.
Please. Okay.
But for her, many could be 4.
Right. Well,
so
14 plus.
We don't believe you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Don't believe me.
14 years? No.
Okay.
Absolutely, categorically, positively, unequivocally, I say no.
Okay. God is good. God is good. God is good.
But they say black don't crack. But
No.
Foundation's good. Concealer's good.
Very good.
Are you serious now?
Yes, I'm serious. I'm 35. Yep, I graduated in 2000, class of 2000.
No.
Renaissance High School. Represent my county girls.
Both of y'all came in after 23.
No, that's more so her age.
Yeah, I'm 26, so.
Oh wow. Black don't crack. Okay.
Yeah, black don't crack. How can ladies volunteer? Because I'm sure that there are a lot that would like to.
Yep. So what we're doing now, we have our monthly meetings. We didn't have one last month, but May 7th, I think that's the first Saturday in May at Baltimore City Community College, and we just got our first office, so we're excited about that. And this is a part of the journey.
Definitely.
I remember starting that we need an office. We would have meetings in my house, but thanks to Harbor Bank, the great folks at Harbor Bank, the CDC, so Mr. Joe Haskins, John Lewis, Tiffany Royster, they opened a CDC on the 6th floor of Harbor Bank. So it's an incubator space, and it's all African American businesses. So we have an incubator space there, and there's a common area. So we're
downtown.
Working, yep, on 25 West Fayette Street. So we're working that.
We were talking about that back
have
before.
an interest meeting there, or just a volunteer training to get more folks out. So that'll be the end of this month in April or early May. So, but you can send an email to volunteer@blackgirlsvote.com if you're interested in volunteering in the meantime.
So this is ladies only.
We love
Say
our
it out loud.
men.
Say it out loud.
No, we love our kings. We appreciate our kings. However,
You can drop the ladies off, but you
and
can't come in.
Security.
Okay.
We appreciate the nation. Brother Carlos and his team. They'll come out sometimes and watch us at events and protect us. We need you. It's a village. It's not just about us. But when we're out saying, "Hey guys, get registered to vote," for some reason people like seeing attractive.
It's definitely that's true. That's true. That's true. So, what about women of other nationalities?
What do you mean? Can they help out and volunteer?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't exclude anyone, but I think it's important that they know that we're talking about issues that are impacting Black women and women of color, specifically Black women and girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I respect that, because a lot of times you hear this, whatever the situation is, they'll say Black and Hispanic or this and that. I'm specifically talking about me, Black people.
Right.
My problem, and so we have to be able, and it takes courage to be able to recognize who you are and to stand up for who this is me. And you see every other ethnicity, they do that, and we have a tendency to be laid back, and that's I think that all of that is changing. I see, as I talk to my son all the time, I see, I think the best days are ahead of us. They look dark now, but let me tell you, we got it going on. And
Definitely.
we have, as I told you before, we got the Midas touch. Everything we touch turned to gold.
So how long do you think it'll take for us to start having, I've referenced Jay-Z's Society Within Society, right, when he talks about legacy in his 444 album. Like, how long do you think it'll take for us to, when you say our greater days are ahead of us, where we have this group economics, where we're talking about, I'm spending money with him and all my dollars, if not all, majority of my dollars are going to a Black business, or we have this love and commitment and passion within our community. How long would you say?
Well, I mean, I've been waiting for that all my life, but it's coming.
I think we're
coming.
closer. I think we're closer than we've ever been.
It's all mental, and it's doing what you're doing is getting us to realize who we are. And
It's mental for the visionaries, but for the masses, they gotta see it. And I think with the success of Black Panther, people can see it. They can see that we got behind this movie, and it's on its way to be the biggest movie of all time. And the masses need to see that. The visionaries like us at this table and many others like us, it's mental. But those minds, the visionaries have to be able to have it mentally, and then the masses have to see the results.
I agree with you. But I remember, if I go back 30 years ago, when I used to manufacture underwear in Jamaica, sold them at Kmart and Sears and stores like that. I went to the NAACP and I said that if you guys can get behind me and we can work together, every ethnicity has a niche in America that they've taken over. Right. You look at 7-Elevens and you see certain people that they've taken. I said it doesn't have to be complicated. But what was surprising to me, that's why I'm saying I can see an elevation in us. They said, well, you think that people are just going to buy underwear because you're black, And I said, yeah. That would be, yeah. Just to support ourselves, yeah. But what I'm saying is that 30 years ago, the mentality wasn't there. Okay. That was something foreign to them. Mm-hmm. It was actually an insult. Yeah. It was an insult. So
it's too soon for them.
Yeah. So now it is coming to fruition. And I found out that you can't be too far ahead, and you can't be too far behind. You got to be right on time. I've done a lot of things, and I've been too far ahead, and it doesn't work anyway. So
did you feel like you spent a lot of time trying to elevate people to where you are and to your level as far as mentally?
I didn't spend a lot of time because trying to, I just went and did it. I spent time in China. I was doing it, and.
Do you speak Chinese?
No, Mandarin, no, Mandarin, no. But as I've said, like my family, that's all they knew is do it. So I didn't waste a lot of time trying to convince.
He's not that type.
The NAACP. I just went to them and I said, we can do this together. They want to do it. So I went on.
That's if you don't get it. That's all right. You get it later. And he'll keep moving. Yeah.
Because life is short. I'm almost 70. I don't have black don't cry. I don't have. So I don't have a lot of time. So I impart everything into my children, and then we take it to the next level and we keep going.
So I have a question. This is maybe a little off topic, but it fits. I was having a conversation with someone right before I got here, and it was talking about the more seasoned individuals who may have been successful, right? For like the 70-year-olds and 75-year-olds who may have been successful in business and not necessarily passing the torch to the generation behind them. Mm-hmm. And it's almost where in other communities we talk about, it's almost like you prepare them to take over your spot and pass the torch, and they'll preserve your legacy. But somewhere
it's a legacy again.
Yeah, so somewhere within our community that didn't happen. And there's kind of like a feeling of some young people, and I was talking to someone, they said, I'm disgusted. I said, well, don't be disgusted, And he was like, well, maybe I'm disappointed. Maybe I'm disappointed that they didn't pass the torch to us and people who were successful in business. And do you feel that in your generation, I'm talking about those who are more seasoned, that there was a reason that they wanted to not look out for us?
Listen, my generation dropped the ball without question, doubt, or hesitation. No, black men, we definitely dropped the ball. Okay. We in the position we're in today because of what we didn't do. Okay. No question. That's why I keep saying to you guys and to black women, I applaud you because you've had something that most black men haven't had, and that's why I said we still on our knees, and because we scared, and we have no question we dropped the ball. My generation definitely. The 60s, 70s, 80s.
That's what I was gonna say. That's when it happened. I've said that a lot, and some people get upset when I talk about it. But during integration, that's when it happened. That's when the ball was dropped, because for whatever reason, the majority of your generation and the ones that were a little bit older than you felt that the white-only pie was better. And they fought so hard for perceived equality that they forgot about the structure that was built, that was forced to be built because of the separation. And when integration happened, they just forget them stores, forget our businesses. We can finally get into this one. And then a whole movement happened where our businesses weren't valued anymore. Right. And we're still there, still getting the results of that now.
We just didn't understand, you know, the big picture.
Yeah,
because you got to understand, right? When they had in 1963, when they had the March on Washington, you know, it wasn't like a march that they have today. I mean, these black people came up from down south. Where they gonna stay at? Where they gonna go to the bathroom at? You know, it was a different. So the very fact that they were able to ease up and not have that pressure on them, you know, that they thought that I could go into the store and go to the bathroom. I can sit down at that counter. You know, it's just that we weren't exposed. You know, and we didn't.
But they didn't even want our money.
No.
And now they take the money. They don't value us, and we still give them the money.
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, the main thing that I have understood in my 70 years dealing in this country is that they don't like, they're jealous of you, they fear you, they know your. This is why I keep saying we got the power. Let us into baseball, we dominate. Football, you dominate. Basketball, you don't play, you dominate. Entertainment, you dominate. The whole world, I've been everywhere. They know we dominate. We don't know it. We don't know who we are. Everybody else knows. Fashion, we dominate. Singing, we dominate. Science, politics. You got the president that you got right now. You got a president that has presidency. It's the difference of night and day. We dominate. So that's that. See, and we don't know that. Think about how they say, you know, we're going to be educated in the schools. You got to be educated at your house. I got to teach my son. I got to teach my daughter the basic principles of life, just like she said about voting and how to expose them, because they weren't exposed. That's why you guys, when you were growing up, I said, you got to go, whatever you want to do, I said, that let me know what you want to do in life, and you have to go volunteer. So Shawana went to volunteer. She said, I want to be a doctor. So she went to volunteer at the hospital, and then she realized, I don't like blood. So she didn't want to be a doctor. She get a PhD, but she wasn't want to be a medical doctor. Shauna said she would be a cook. Okay, so
I remember that.
She went there and said, I don't think I necessarily want to do that. So you have to expose. Once you're exposed, you know, you can do anything. Yeah. You know, exposure. And then you have that confidence. Then you can conquer fear. Because once we conquer fear, you can do anything. Anything.
You sound like a politician too. She does and you do.
No, I do not. She's a politician. She's the one who.
But I listen. I'm just very happy and very proud of you, and very much so. And I'm proud of my son.
Thank you.
And so listen, I am proud of black folks. So I could see the difference from 40 years ago, 50 years ago, to where we are now. So that's why I can say I know. Just as Martin said, I went to the mountaintop. I looked over. We gonna get there as a people. I know we are. No question. None.
I'm just allowed to see it.
You will.
Probably too. Mm-hmm.
You will.
I'm excited. Mm-hmm.
But you got to understand the bar keeps moving though. It's not stagnant. So whatever, you know, I mean, I've seen the accomplishments that we've made, you know, and then with you guys, it keeps growing. So you're never going to be stagnant. So it's going to keep growing and growing.
And one of the things I think when we were talking about integration was when we integrated, you know, the schools, the teacher didn't necessarily have to give the attention to the little black kid in the classroom. So versus me and the black teacher saying, I want you to be the smartest because you have to compete. And so there was a different level of purpose when you were in that classroom. And then when the kids got into those classrooms, they were no longer, you know, psychologically they were, just thrown off being in a classroom where people are taunting you and throwing stuff at
That's
you.
true.
But I think now what we're seeing is that understanding that, wait a minute, we do need to work together and that it's a collective effort. And I think that that's what was lost along the way, because a part of that, when those black kids did succeed and you were the first person to get this job, to be the executive here, the first black executive, you weren't told to go find the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. You were like, you better keep your spot. You need to be the one and only before someone comes and takes your spot. Yeah. So there was a lot of psychological damage there as well.
And see, what you're really alluding to is that a lot of times, if they made it, they felt within themselves that I made it by the skin of my teeth. I just made it. You know what I mean? You might think that I'm some kind of special, but it's
like Jackie Robinson was the best baseball player.
Right. I know that I made it by the skin of my teeth, and it was just fortune and luck and all those things that happen. But we have to. The only thing that we have to do now is to realize that nobody's better than us, and we still think we'll say, well, white people.
And we have to work together.
Yes, they're not. And I didn't even realize what Jesse Jackson really meant, because I already felt that. But when he said, "I am somebody," and that is very important. And as I have grown to meet people, we don't know. Just as you talk about black businesses, and this is getting off the subject for a second, but I remember meeting with Al Sharpton here in Baltimore, and who else? Larry Young and a lot of people, and they wanted to open up a black district. Okay. And
this is in the 80s?
Late 80s, it might be early 90s. Okay. And then they wanted to go to the Smoke was mayor, so maybe Smoke might have been the mayor, and they wanted to get money from the city or the state. And I said, it might have been 1,000. We were down. It was downtown. It was somewhere downtown at a club. It was about 500 or 600 people there. And I said, why do you have to go to the government? If we got 1,000 people here, everybody put up 1,000. Now we can generate the money yourselves. You don't have to ask people for anything. And so we are now realizing that we don't have to do that. And
fund our own stuff.
Yeah, I've always told you guys, it is better if I work with myself and I make $20,000 or $30,000 a year, and I made it myself, than work with somebody making $100,000. You got to do for yourself and struggle and make it yourself.
Agreed.
And black girls vote.
That's right.
Black girls vote. Hey, listen, I've been impressed.
Black girls vote. It's a concrete fact that we vote. It's also a call to action that we get more people engaged in the political process, and then also our civil duty, because we didn't always have the right to vote. So, that's what we call our 3 C's. Black girls vote. You got it.
I love it. I'm all in.
Again, how can people find out more about the organization?
Sure. So if we have any ladies out there who are interested in joining us as we engage, educate, and empower, feel free to follow us on social media. We're at Black Girls Vote on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as visit our website, www.blackgirlsvote.com.
You're right. She is the politician.
I just sit back. I'm just a strategist. I'm a visionary.
Also, definitely want to thank you ladies. Thank you, Dad.
Thank you.
Again.
Yeah, I've enjoyed myself.
And really quick, I told you yesterday, this is the beginning of the end for Trump.
Yes.
I'm excited about that. We're going to have a separate conversation about that.
Yeah, I agree.
But Radio on Fire broadcasts reach over 278,000 viewers per month. Advertise your product, service, or event on any Radio on Fire broadcast sponsoring an episode of a show for as low as $50. Visit radioonfire.com/promo to get started. Also, the brand new Radio on Fire Live app is available for all Android devices. The iOS version for your phone is coming soon. iPhone, right? Yeah. All right. So we will see you guys next week. Real Spit Radio is coming up next.
Good show.
All right. Yeah, it was powerful.
Black girls vote.
That's right. Thank you guys. I learned a lot here. Got some of that good old wisdom.